Welcome to Chronic Combat Conversations, a live look at our best bets, picks, and predictions for every UFC event. With your hosts, TB Scouting MMA and
The Guru back again for UFC Austin. Dariush taking on Armin Tsarukyan in your lightweight main event. I mean, after a win here, you'd have to think either guy is just maybe one more big fight, one more big win away from a title shot. But before we can get into the nitty gritty of this card after a week off, we've got a very special guest in the building. Make sure if you're not following this guy on Twitter, first off, he's always posting something matter of fact, great engagement tweets, good facts, interesting tidbits. Love his content. Make sure you're following him on YouTube at Mike's MMA Picks. That's where you're getting his podcast. Make sure you're checking out his Bet MMA, where it's Mike's MMA Picks. You guessed it. And we got Mike from Mike's MMA Picks on the damn pod finally. What's up, brother? Good to meet you. Good to see you.
Thank you for the intro. Pleasure and an honor to be here. I look forward to breaking down this UFC Austin card. Should be an action-packed event. And man, we might see some finishes. We might see submissions. We might see some blood splattered across the octagon. Who knows, man? But I will tell you this. I'm excited to break down this card, and I'm looking forward to chatting it up with you guys. Thanks for having me on.
really appreciate you. Thank you for joining us. It's seriously an honor. One of the better guys in the space, just a true gentleman. And also, if you check his record, man, it's not a sprint. This is like he does his research, he chooses his spots, and I'm really interested to see where your interests lie on this card, Mike. What a great one coming back from a couple weeks off. Make sure if there's one thing you guys can do to help us out before we take our time and break down this amazing card for you, please throw a like on the video. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Listen, a week off is going to hurt the algo, so we got to do our best here. Please help us out. Let's get rocking and rolling. And listen, we just got to 500 subscribers, so make sure you're part of the party that gets us to our 1,000 mark in the future. Same thing with Mike's MMA Picks. Make sure you're following his channel. Also, he's been in the content game a lot longer. Please help him get to 1,000 before we do, because he deserves it. But let's get this show on the road. Mike, anything before we get started here?
Oh, man. I think that this is one of those cards where you're really going to have to pick your spots. I know that's a motto that I've preached for quite some time, but you'll get a sense for it as we walk our way through each individual matchup. I believe that there are some clear passes in my eyes here, but there are some fights that we'll be targeting. So I look forward to hearing each of your perspectives as well. So really looking forward to this one. And I know it's been a week without the UFC and everybody's chomping at the bit. You enjoyed PFL during the hiatus, but now UFC's back. You know, the cream always rises to the top, and there are only 3 more UFC events left in 2023. So if you have those bullets in the chamber, and if you've been working with a 100-unit scale, 1 unit equals 1% of the bankroll, you should be in a solid spot here as we close out 2023 and look forward to 2024. I'm a big proponent of picking your spots and really using your units wisely. So let's do it.
Amen. Love that. Shout out to all you amazing guys in the chat. Just want to shout out Mushroom MMA, one of the biggest supporters of the MMA community and has his own awesome channel. Daz, always throwing out his best bets, supporting all the great guys in the community. And yeah, we always have the best guests. I mean, Mike, he fits right at the top of that list. Agree 100%. Pink, we appreciate you and all your kind comments as always. Synchro Wing, yes, we love Mike too, and we're just getting started. And Ghost, Mike is here. Gotta love it. Don't we all? So,
you didn't ask me if I had anything to add.
Well, Guru, do you have anything to add before we get started?
Listen, if you got them, let them roll, baby, because we're about to get started.
Oh, baby. I see Mike's got a nice tall boy over there. Guru's cracking it open. I got my coffee. We all got a party. We got Benny the Bull Dariush versus Armin Ahalkalakaletz Tsarukyan. I did my best on that one. I apologize if I messed up. It's Benil Dariush, but I like Benny the Bull better. It's the 7-year-older Benil Dariush coming in with a 3-inch height advantage, but we have a similar reach here at 72 inches. So Tsarukyan, can he find his way into the pocket safely? Is he going to go for the takedowns he always goes for? Well, I think from one thing, from a cardio perspective, I trust the Arman Tsarukyan side a bit more in this spot. I think that's one thing that truly stands out, as well as the age factor, kind of the trajectory of either guy. But you take a look at the competition and the finishes on the resume of Beneil Dariush. I mean, I'm impressed with the way that he's really put some of it together. One of the only guys to ever finish Drucker close. I mean, and let alone, did you see that knockout too? But you take closer looks at that fight, and you can see some of those cardio issues. You can see even some of the chin issues of Beneil Dariush. Been knocked out 4 times in his career. So I think if anything here, Arman Tsarukyan, even if he's not having high level offensive takedown success for extended periods, I mean, even Mateusz Gamrot struggled to hold Beneil Dariush down. But even from distance, I think Arman Tsarukyan kind of has what it takes to hang here. And I think it's only a matter of time before the body shots add up with the kicks and he's able to land a big overhand. And if not, I think he can get that ground and pound going as the fight goes on. I'm going to go Tsarukyan here, but I'm tentative to lay the minus 310 now. The line keeps sliding away, another 25 points away from Dariush today. Ultimately, I would say I almost lean to the over 3.5. I think this fight definitely gets the championship rounds. I don't think Tsarukyan is the most prolific finisher. I'm just banking on the gas tank of Beneil Dariush to not quite make it the full 5. So my pick here will be Arman Tsarukyan by knockout, whether it comes by ground and pound or just on the feet. And I think he's just going to be the better athlete with the better gas tank. Guru, I took this one. What do you think?
No, I think you were excellent there. One thing I think that's worth noting, maybe one of those kind of side interesting things coming in, right? Is this Beneil Dariush's first main event? I believe it is. So first time for him trying to plan for and train for 5 rounds. Arman Tsarukyan, now his second time doing so. I personally feel that he did win that fight versus Gamrot, and within that they have a similar opponent. I just think that when you watch Arman Tsarukyan's level of wrestling, level of grappling, I swear I'm not trying to take anything away from Beneil Dariush, and I say that with the truth that I made the mistake of picking him in his last fight versus Oliveira. But I just think that there's certain levels to this grappling game, and you watched Arman Tsarukyan go head to head with Islam Makhachev in that grappling department. You watched him, shoot land over 12 takedowns versus Gamrot. Just the pace, the pressure. I actually think that he's probably actually going to be the better striker here. Beneil, sure, he's got that unorthodox way of kind of, right, the way he put out Scott Holtzman, the back fist, and the Drakkar close fight. Like, he's had his way of getting finishes, but that's generally not what he's been known for in his career. He's kind of been known more as the decisionator. And as time goes on, more and more, that Tony Ferguson win is just less and less impressive, matters even less and less. Is this line getting a little wide? I would say so. But on Bet365, they're giving me the option of Arman Tsarukyan and over 1.5 at minus 134, over 2.5 at plus 110. Kind of the option I'd like to go. I think it takes a little bit of time for him to get started, but I think the pace and pressure of Arman eventually wears down Beneil. I'm not sure how he wins the fight, because Beneil, if he wants to get it grappling, like I'm saying, I think Arman's just as good in that scrambling department. You're not going to submit him. So give me Arman. Not maybe my highest exposure of the card here, especially at minus 310, but it's who I expect to get it done. Mike, any feelings, any agreements, any bets? What do you like?
Isn't it amazing how Benny Dariush opened as a minus 120 favorite? And look where we are now. Arman Tsarukyan could have been had as an underdog here. And the one concern I have on the Tsarukyan side is his aggressiveness. He tends to sometimes come out extremely hot. We've seen it against Gamrot and other fighters. But we also have to realize that this is a young fighter who is maturing right before our eyes. And I believe that the Joaquim Silva fight that we saw, I mean, look at the odds in that matchup. He was expected to run through Silva, and Silva hung in there for quite some time, made it an interesting fight. Tsarukyan, yes, he got rocked there too. I believe that was a teachable moment, and teachable moments in mixed martial arts are important. If as a young fighter who's up and coming and has a lot of potential for them to face some adversity early in their career, if you better get to them early, or else they're going to get you next time. They're going to make those subtle improvements from fight to fight. And Tsarukyan fights out of a solid camp. On the Dariush side, I love Benny Dariush. I've met Master Rafael Cordero numerous times, and I can vouch for everything that Dariush stands for, what he brings to the table. He's very complacent. He will sit back, and he's a very cerebral fighter. He'll manage his gas tank well. Very impressed with his ability to fight against Mateusz Gamrot. That was one of the most impressive performances I've ever seen, to be honest. But the thing is, Gamrot wasn't necessarily a threat to finish the fight. I didn't see Gamrot being very aggressive on the feet, and Tsarukyan, like you mentioned, throws those heavy body kicks. And unless Dariush is able to catch one of those, they're going to eventually pay dividends down the stretch. And that's why I also like the Tsarukyan side. Granted, I liked Tsarukyan at minus 105. Now he's at minus 310. So it's if you're asking me to pick a side at these current odds, man, it seems like there's a little bit of value on Dariush here. But earlier in a week, 2 weeks ago, when Tsarukyan was minus 105, even sub minus 200, I believe he was the play. But looking forward to this matchup. Can't wait. 5 rounds, championship rounds. Do I think it's going to get there? The odds makers don't think that's going to happen. I believe Fight Doesn't Go the Distance is hovering around minus 150 right now. Oh, minus 200 at the current moment. So interesting matchup. Looking forward to it, though. The pick's going to be Tsarukyan.
I love it. I love it. Seems like we align there, and you won't find him in a parlay for me, but it'll be a good time.
I think one of the big things, and we have to give a shout out to one of our big supporters, Ghost, on Twitter. Saw his unbelievable thread this week. Have to give a shout out to what he just called, and I want to use this more often, ambient movement. So this is the movement happening when exchanges are not occurring. Arman Tsarukyan's ambient movement is going to frustrate the fuck out of Beneil Dariush. The fakes, the high kicks, the fake of the takedowns, the feints in general, going to be a problem, going to frustrate him. I see him having a lot of success with using that.
Yeah.
Shout out Ghost.
Shout out Ghost, man. Guru, way to bring that analysis to the table on the show. Ghost, thank you for putting it out there on Twitter for us to take some crib notes from. And right before we move on to the next fight, just want to give another shout out to these awesome people in the chat. We have a lot of people from the Protect Your Neck community, Dan Tom show. Appreciate all you guys stopping by to say, hey, yeah, one-way traffic for Armand, for us too. Dirty Reg, that's what we're thinking. There you go. Nice job, Daz, getting some good stuff out there. Rain Lamina, Synchro Wing, Ghost, we appreciate you. So let's keep it moving here. We got the Tarantula on short notice. Jalen Turner, minus 205 versus Bobby King Green, plus 170. Fresh off of whooping the ass of Pretender, Grant Dawson. Here's Bobby Green on another quick matchup, getting the co-main spot. Supposed to be a 5-round event. Now taking on Jalen Turner, the guy who's going to look like he's like 2 weight classes bigger than Bobby Green in this matchup. And I'm bamboozled. I'm perplexed by this one. I can see both sides here. I really don't feel comfortable placing a bet on either money line. I think I'm going to have a couple of props that I'm looking into. It's Jalen Turner round 1, Jalen Turner round 2, and then Bobby Green round 2, Bobby Green round 3. I don't think we're getting that flash KO that we got in the Grant Dawson style. Like, I've seen Jalen Turner survive the business. You know what I mean? Like, Dan Hooker was putting it on him. And, you know, I think Dan Hooker on his better days would have found a finish against Jalen Turner. But and we even see at the end of round 2 that choke is sunken in. But Jalen Turner does withstand, makes it to the end. Close fight, ends up breaking the arm of Dan Hooker. But you see early when Jalen Turner hurts Dan Hooker, if Bobby Green gets hurt the same way, how does he respond? And that's where I start getting confused. We've seen Bobby Green hurt on a multitude of occasions. We've seen Bobby Green kind of have all these issues. So I'm not confident so much either way, but listening in the press conference and the pre-fight interviews, Jalen Turner talking about how he didn't really want to take this one until the UFC sweetened the pot a little bit. Screams the over to me. Over 1.5 minus 180. Fight starts round 3 is probably somewhere close to plus money. I'm thinking Bobby Green by late finish based on his round 3 is just unreal. And Jalen Turner's round 3 is probably one of the worst things you've ever seen, you know, at 155. So especially a guy making a short notice weight cut when he missed weight his last time out. What are we getting from Jalen Turner here? Guru, what do you think is happening in this spot? I gotta lean towards Green. I don't know if I'm betting it though.
I think I find myself very confused as well. Um, I find myself vacillating back and forth, which makes me feel like I definitely don't want to stick my flag or wager some high amount, and I'm just going to enjoy this fight from a fan perspective. But you're right. Very much concerned for Jalen Turner. I don't know how he makes 155 to begin with. Misses weight last time. Tough to say if it didn't compromise him versus Dan Hooker. Might just be a mentality thing, right? Maybe he mentally broke as well as the cardio and the weight cut being an issue. So curious to see how he comes in, if he comes in on weight here. Bobby Green, somebody who was just a plus 400 underdog and knocked out Grant Dawson with one punch. I mean, I just don't think Grant Dawson was ready for, I don't know, any sort of fight that night. Maybe that shot broke his nose, but I just think he was done and he didn't want to be there. It was really one of the worst performances I've seen in a very long time. And yeah, listen, the Tony Ferguson fight, interesting, right? He beats up Tony Ferguson pretty good, but he kind of gets dropped there, right? And that was at that first round. As he dropped, was it stumbled? I didn't really like that look.
It wasn't ideal. Whatever it was, Guru, you're right. It was not ideal. That's what I can say.
And then the one fight I really try to draw back to is like the not the Jared Gordon fight, sorry, the Drew Dober fight, where Drew finally catches him and just knocks him out clean with one left hook. I feel like the difference is Jalen Turner's not really as much boxing in close range as he is, kicks and jabs and, maybe even flying knees to come in. He's a little bit more crazy in that regard as opposed to in the trenches, in the pocket boxing like Drew Dober. So that's kind of really where I keep vacillating back and forth. Yeah, I don't know. I lean the Tarantula, but he's just not somebody that you play at minus 200 because he's fragile and he's just not. He hasn't shown the heart. He hasn't shown that durability. So he's not somebody that you play at minus 200. You love to play him at a dog shot. So I kind of like playing it, like you said, TB, maybe an over here. So what do you think, Mike? Are we on the right track?
Yeah, it's interesting because, I mean, everybody seems to be on the Jalen Turner train, but you also have to look back. I mean, did you see how Vicente Luque put out Jalen Turner? And it's happened.
My word.
It's happened many times throughout his career. Jalen Turner has been brutally knocked out numerous times. And now he's coming in here on short notice. Granted, people say he's been staying ready for this moment. And you watch the media day. Props to you. You watch the interviews. He was a bit, there was some trepidation, it seemed like, as far as taking this bout. It felt like his hand was kind of twisted. So, yes, Turner does fight very well at length, and Bobby Green fights well in the pocket. So, who's going to have to close the distance? That's going to be Bobby Green. Now, could Bobby Green get lit up in the same way you had Hooker get caught by kicks, etc.? Yeah, there's a possibility that closing the distance is a challenge. And then you also talk about the front chokes of Jalen Turner. He does have a legitimate ground game. And Bobby Green, 37 years of age. Bobby Green also has a full camp here under his belt too. So it's an interesting fight. I also have stayed away from a money line perspective. Initially, I'm seeing a lot of people on the Jalen Turner side. I understand if this was a full camp and that Turner's going to make weight, I recommend folks wait until weigh-ins to see what actually transpires. This is a fight that may not even potentially take place, to be honest. We've seen it happen before. People miss weight by 3, 4, 5 pounds, and then the other side of the fight doesn't accept it. We saw Bubba Jenkins and Chris Wade a few days ago. So although I see Bobby Green, he seems like a guy that would take the fight. Now, we also just saw breaking news on the timeline. I saw that Iridium Sports was saying that Bobby Green was involved in some altercation with Armin Tsarukyan's camp. So what do we make of this? What's going on here? I'm sure there'll probably be some leaked video footage, etc. But I'm leaning towards the Turner side, but I'm not touching it from a money line perspective. And also, this is a 3-round fight, right? If it was a 5-round fight, I think it would be a different story. And you also mentioned Grant Dawson. I have to just get this off my chest too. There are some fighters who traditionally have a difficult time absorbing punches, and just the way they accept and take strikes, it's concerning. Some folks check out much more quickly than others. Grant Dawson had been one. He usually likes to get his grappling going, and we can talk Sean Brady in a few fights also, where that's a situation too, where both he and Pat Sabatini have some of the most horrific strike and defense I've seen in the fight game. But in this fight, I'm leaning towards Turner. I'll say that.
Nice. I definitely understand the pick. I mean, the size differential is just going to be too large to ignore. Shout out Dirty Reg in the chat. A few other guys saying the same thing. Synchro Wing. Rain Lamina, what does trepidation mean? When you're like, you're not feeling so secure about something. Intrepid, like a lot of turbulence.
Hesitation.
So, yeah, hesitation. Yeah, hesitation. So
caution. It's to have caution.
And Mike, do you mind answering this lovely question from Synchro Wing about why you don't like to parlay? A little meta game.
I'll be honest. Probably 1 or 2% of my entire over 1,000 plays are parlays, and you're really reducing value when you have a parlay and you're trying to add these juiced links to a chain, and all it takes is one mistake, and that whole tower comes crumbling down. That parlay comes crashing down. And I personally, I'll play some juiced favorites, but I'll play them separately at the best odds available. That is typically how I do it. If I'm going to try to find the best line available, I'm looking different spots throughout the week. And you've probably heard me talk about dollar cost average also. If you don't want to get burned by a bad line, one way of approaching it is to buy in throughout the week at the same amount of units, but you buy in at multiple price points to avoid getting burned by a bad line. But yeah, as far as parlays go, not my bag, never been my bag, never will be my bag. And I just think that that's a recipe for disaster long term.
Good man. Appreciate that.
Well said.
Trying to take them out of my game more and more as we go. So great job, guys. We're moving right along. We've got Rob Italic Font taking on Davison Deixdegueira Figueiredo. Going to be an awesome fight. Minus 142, Rob Font. Plus 120, Davison Figueiredo. Guru, what do you got for me here?
You're just going to pass it off to me just like that.
I'm going to pass. I gave you a warning, too. What do you got?
Did you? Was that what you warned me about?
That's exactly it.
Listen, we got Rob Font here coming in off of a shellacking versus Corey Sandhagen, which is Corey apparently tore his lat or his shoulder in that fight. That was fucking crazy. But he grapples his way through elbow, right? Arm somewhere?
Tricep.
Thank you.
Check out this bicep.
I knew that was somewhere. Check out this bicep. Woo! Nate Lane wearing the UFC. Wow, what a character. Listen, you've got the God of War coming in as the first guy in UFC history to face the same opponent 4 times in a row. The UFC basically spoiled this man's prime. 32 to 35 facing Brandon Moreno over and over and over again. Wild. Finally, he makes the move up to welterweight here, which is very impressive to move from flyweight to welterweight.
Yeah. Yes.
It's very, very impressive.
The classic TB mistake in the slideshow. We made it. Don't worry, I fixed the rest of them. Oh boy.
It's awesome. Excellent. So finally is making the move that he wanted to make 2 years ago. He's making the move up to bantamweight here at 135. And I just think that this is a classic fight that Rob Font loses. He constantly, his face bruises up way easier than most people. And I think that is something that Mike was just kind of saying before. Certain people take shots in certain ways. I think on that same vein, certain people wear shots in certain ways differently. And Rob Font is somebody that just doesn't accumulate damage well. And he's also somebody, when you watch the Chito Vera fight and you watch the Jose Aldo fight, he's winning, he's coasting, he's great. He's jabbing, he's moving. Oh my God. Oh, he's rocked. Oh, he's hurt. Oh no. He will be winning the whole round until he's not. And that's what this fight is to a T. To me, Davidson Figueiredo is going to figure him out slowly but surely, and he's going to rock him. And God forbid, which means please do, God forbid Davidson Figueiredo starts to grapple. We just saw that there's a major hole here. So Figueiredo, somebody with underrated grappling. We said that during his time as champion. We said it for a while now. Used it to beat Moreno in that third fight. I like Figueiredo here. Got him at plus 130, currently plus 120. Yeah, let's go. Damage this boy up. What do you think, TB and Mike?
No, Mike, go ahead, man. What do you got on this spot?
Sure. I'll be honest. I'm glad this fight is happening after the Gastelum Brady fight, because I know Fight Ready is going to be probably soaring high. Hopefully after Gastelum makes weight on Friday morning. We'll see. I know that chapter of this story has yet to be written, my brothers. But I will say this, that Figueiredo, extremely talented. I have watched him like a hawk since his arrival in the UFC, and he is extremely talented. One of the most dangerous flyweights I've ever seen. The power that he carried, and also the killer instinct that has been on display. Go back and watch the Joseph Benavidez fights. My God, that was something else. And then also the Alex Perez fight. You know, the way he got that, I believe it was a guillotine that was locked up, and the tap was so quick. And now you're talking about him moving up a weight class. He is 35 years old. He ran out of gas midway through the fight against Moreno. And I believe, was that fight in Brazil, the most recent one? I think it may have been.
Yeah.
He
had an eye injury, pretty bad eye injury.
Yeah, he got swelled up. And then I'll be honest, I was on Moreno in that fight, in the most recent one, and Moreno was looking solid. I was actually at Borgata watching that fight, and props to New Jersey over there. So in this fight, Rob Font is a dangerous striker. We know the New England cartel, the jab, the straight punches down the pike. I honestly, you brought up a great point. Is it Greg? You brought up a great point. You were saying that that at any moment the wheels can fall off for Rob Font, and we've saw it against numerous fighters, Jose Aldo and others. In this matchup, I do have concerns for Rob Font's durability. I do have concerns for Davidson Figueiredo, the way he's going to swell up after getting peppered by the jab over and over and over again. This isn't a larger octagon. You're going to see Rob Font utilize his footwork, and footwork is going to be a really important part of this fight. I am leaning towards the Rob Font side. I got to be honest, folks. As great as Figueiredo is, folks have to realize he just moved up to the best division in the entire sport, the most talent-rich division in the entire sport at 35. And I think, honestly, Figueiredo is nearing the end of his career. Granted, he's trying to reclaim that fountain of youth at Fight Ready, and they will have him ready to go. And those explosive movements that he has, that can win him this fight. I preach again, there are no certainties in this game. Rob Font is there to be had. Both of these fighters swell up. I think that there's the potential for this fight to end inside the distance. And I'm looking at the fight doesn't go the distance currently at minus 130 or so. Look around different books. You'll find different prices. But I think that somebody gets finished here. And if you want to talk ambient movement or the king of purposeless movement, we'll talk Clay Guida in a few minutes. But Figueiredo, I think that if things aren't going his way, he may check out of this fight at some point. So I think that fight doesn't go the distance is the way to play this, to be honest.
I like it. The things that I'll bring to the table from an analysis standpoint that haven't been touched on yet, I do think that Fight Ready game plan, like I've seen in the chat here, Ghost, I would like to say thank you, talking about working in the low kicks and the wrestling, Font heavy with the jab. How do you counter that? Being the shorter fighter, you attack the legs. If you're giving up reach, you're probably not giving up that much leg reach if the guy's taller than you. Like the torsos or the legs got to be longer. So Davison should be able to land some leg kicks here. He's got the right camp. We've seen him when he had that third fight against Moreno, when he went in there from the Fight Ready camp. You know, He looked great. He looked like he had a purpose and he had a game plan. Was able to throw volume and last over 5 rounds. So that's where I feel like getting that extra safety net of not having to cut to 125. I don't necessarily think the guy's bulking during camp. He's still huge, but Figueiredo's one of those guys where even after his first loss to Moreno, I was just like, listen, just be done with 125. Just move up. It doesn't matter. You don't need to go reclaim anything. And I respect him. He went and reclaimed it, but then he had to defend it again. He couldn't just move up to 135. He should have made this move 3 years ago.
Yeah. He wasn't allowed to. They wouldn't let him. They kept throwing money. They kept throwing money at him. Here, do it again. Here's another title fight. Here's another main event opportunity. Here's more pay-per-view points. Here you go.
Yeah. And the dude loves shopping. He loves his Brazilian steakhouses.
Yeah.
But you get him to Arizona and you get him to fight ready. And you tell this guy you get 10 extra pounds of muscle to keep on your frame for this fight. Dude, I'm going with Dariush de Guerra.
I just
nothing crazy, but I got a couple of unis out there.
First off, I hate your italic font nickname. That's horrible.
You like bold better?
Yeah, I was going to go bold. I like bold.
I did bold last time, but then you said, what about italic? So I switched it this time.
Oh, that's funny.
You just don't like whatever I put.
How the fuck?
Because you suck. That? Because I remember all the times you're
incredible.
Annoying and it bothers me. So we're going to move on. Poor Mike dealing with us arguing about the nicknames as per usual. Because we got another one here. We got Sean Philly Brady versus Kelvin TB Scouting MMA Gastelum. I mean, do you see the resemblance? I made the weight cut. The water fast is going great. Looking on the Instas, my cut down to 170 is going awesome. There should be no
incredibly low T.
All right, so we got Sean Brady minus 125, Kelvin Gastelum plus 105. I got to make a couple moves on my books because I got a plus 100 I could cash out for even money. Got to go take that plus 105. Oopsies, that's in my hand. Mike, go ahead. Let's get your analysis on the fight here. What are you seeing in this matchup?
Well, everything I say revolves around Kelvin Gastelum actually making weight. So I've seen Gastelum fight in person. My sons have met him. He's a great guy, great fighter. I met Master Rafael Cordero, and a key here is he ended up leaving Kings, right? And he found Fight Ready, and we saw against Chris Curtis a new spry. Do you remember that post-fight speech from Kelvin when he beat Chris Curtis? Oh, man, what a sigh of relief that was. That was a long time coming. And that piston left hand of Kelvin Gastelum, he still has one of the quickest left hands in the game, can follow up with that. It's a 1-2. And the thing that concerns me is when things aren't going Kelvin's way, he can kind of just sputter out. And I don't want that to happen on Saturday. I am a fan of Kelvin Gastelum, but I'm also a fan of Sean Brady. I've seen what he can do inside of the octagon when he's able to implement his will and grapple heavy. And that's what he's going to try to do to Kelvin Gastelum. Make this a dirty, ugly fight against the fence, clinching, trying to land takedowns. Now, Kelvin's got great hips, able to push a pace. Also, both of these fighters can push a pace. But then I go back to the Michael Chiesa fight. And the third round, if there were a few more seconds in that Sean Brady-Michael Chiesa fight, Michael Chiesa is coming out the other side of that fight victorious. Granted, close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, right? So Sean Brady, very talented, but he has many holes in his game. And the biggest is the striking defense. The second biggest is when he faces adversity, he can wilt under pressure. We've seen it happen numerous times. And as talented as he is, and we love, he's got some of the best tattoos in the game. But tattoos can only get you so far. Man, I'm going to be picking Kelvin Gastelum here. I think that, granted, it's been since 2016 was the last time Kelvin made welterweight. And I remember getting on his case when he was supposed to fight Donald Cerrone, I believe, at Madison Square Garden. He didn't even show up for weigh-ins. And then he ended up going on to face Kennedy and did some phenomenal work there. Kelvin should never have been at 185. I was at his fight against Chris Weidman, and he had his moments there too, was able to floor Chris Weidman, and Weidman ended up coming through with, I believe, a head and arm choke. So here, Kelvin is susceptible to being dragged out in a long fight. And I know Kelvin survived against Jacare Souza, as I mentioned in my personal breakdown that I did on my YouTube channel. I'm on the Gastelum side. I think that he has a lot to offer here, but everything is predicated on Kelvin Gastelum making weight. If he shows up at 174, 175, you want to talk about a demoralizing experience. That's probably what's going to happen here. And I would probably pull out my money and cash out or hedge, etc., if Gastelum doesn't make weight. But I think at a plus number at this stage in his career, these guys are only a year apart in age. Look at the experience gap. Look at also Gastelum. He's been on the sidelines just waiting this out too. He hasn't made it to the octagon. So it's not like he has a tremendous amount of miles in there. We know we could talk about Adesanya and how he gave Adesanya the fight of his life, etc. And Adesanya, what did he say in between that 4th and 5th round? He said something about ready to die or something. Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. So, but I believe Gastelum's the right side here. I think Brady has shown in the past that he can mentally check out and wilt. And I mean, if Bilal Muhammad is finishing you with strikes, where are we?
Yeah. I think that's a fairly interesting point, and I think that's a good place to hand it too. I appreciate that. I think we're on this. I think we're all on the same side here. I'm gonna tag in a little bit too. Both guys have actually kind of had a failure to launch, so to speak, in trying to get some fights going here. Kelvin was supposed to fight Shavkat Rakhmonov, had a facial fracture. Was supposed to fight Nasruddin Imavov, had the mouth injury. Both of those things to his face, not ideal. Also had an injury was supposed to fight Dricus du Plessis. So he's had a bunch of problems, but Brady on his side, like you said, supposed to fight Jack Della Maddalena, has a staph infection, and then is supposed to fight Michel Pereira before that, and has a groin injury. So both of these guys have struggled to get there. Photos of Kelvin Gastelum coming in right now. He looks incredible. I was on Bilal Muhammad and on Bilal Muhammad heavy against Sean Brady because I was like, this guy's not going to be able to take Bilal down. And then on the feet, he's not going to do well. And I honestly think this is a similar issue. Like the striking, I think, is leaps and bounds better. I don't care how the stats look in terms of accuracy or things like that. Kelvin Gastelum is a way better striker than Sean Brady. He's got a better chin. And I think he's going to devastate Brady. Brady's somebody that was, getting tagged up bad by Michael Chiesa. He was done at that fight. Forget 5 rounds. If that fight was 4 rounds, it was over. Like, there was no chance for him to continue after that. He was done. I mean, 5 more seconds, 10 more seconds, the fight was over. Brady was cooked. Kelvin is going to, when you watch Kelvin fight, constant pressure, constant work, coming forward, striking, good takedown defense, good wrestling himself. You watch the fight with Tim Kennedy. I know you got to go back and you actually have to use Fight Pass for that, but you watch his sprawls and his scrambles. They're there. Chris Weidman, the All-American, needs 7 takedowns to finally put down Kelvin. Brady's not getting there. He doesn't have that volume. He hasn't shown that volume. He hasn't shown the durability, and he hasn't shown any ability to really get it done on the feet at all, really. Michael Chiesa's talking with him, laughing with him. We know what Michael Chiesa now is. He's just kind of a jobber. I love Michael Chiesa, but he's not coming in with some killer instinct anymore, and he couldn't put that guy away. Jake Matthews, man, like that's not it. So I think he's going to struggle here. I love Kelvin Gastelum at dog price. Got him at plus 120. Couldn't be happier about that. TB, clean up, baby. Love it.
All right, here we go. So, couple pieces of housekeeping we didn't get to in this breakdown that I thought was pertinent. So, Gastelum used to being the much smaller guy, used to giving up the height and the reach. He's now only giving up 1 inch of height and 1 inch of reach. It's bowling ball versus bowling ball, except that Kelvin Gastelum we see on the right of the screen right there, that's not the Kelvin Gastelum we're going to get on Fight Night. I don't know if we talked about the pictures. We talked about the shape he's in. And yeah, go back, watch the end of that Chiesa fight. Totally agree. Mike popping in the chat and loving it, making sure that people know what to do. Pink, I have a question. What is the relapse? Are you talking about like an eating disorder, drinking? Like, is there something behind the scenes that you know about? I'm curious, maybe that he's talked about that I missed. Guru,
I
do
think
you
he
know?
means food. I think he means
Okay,
food.
fair enough, because I could totally relate, so I understand how it goes. But so the other thing that I was saying this matchup about Kelvin Gastelum here is I know we've seen him kind of like that Jack Hermanson heel hook, terrible look. Like Chris Weidman working down around 3. Not ideal, but that was all the way down around 3. Um, Fair enough, Pink. I appreciate that. Everyone just has their old ways. Everyone has their vice. So I think in this matchup here, it's Kelvin Gastelum by knockout, quite frankly. But the one thing I do have to say, if we're going back and talking about kind of early stoppages, Sean Brady versus Bilal Muhammad was like somewhat of an early stoppage.
I think it'll take some time. If anything, it's a round 3 decision type. Like it's gonna take some time to finish Brady.
Yeah, I'll take so it'll be Kelvin Gastelum. I'll take the round 2 and the round 3 individual props. And I'm gonna go ahead once I see the weight is made, I might add on to my 2.5 units, but I'll probably keep it there and just add a little half unit from a prop perspective is probably the responsible thing to do from a unit management standpoint. One final note I'll make on this fight. Things I find interesting, Kelvin Gastelum and over 1.5. Things that you can't track on BetMMA tips, but found this amazing new app, Pickit, Pikkit. We're not paid by them. I just thought it was fantastic. You can link your sports books. I need them to add Bet365, and they'll kind of track your results for you as you go.
It's
You have bets placed
unbelievable.
across 5, 6 different books. I only use 3. Guru uses 15. But basically, like, you have a way to just kind of see a centralized place of all your plays, and you don't need to go enter them another time into BetMMA. They're already just like in there. It shows you your yearly, your monthly, your weekly,
Your
your day
daily,
by
like you don't
day.
have to do your math to figure
Yeah,
any of that out. And one of the things I love the best about it now is you can search up almost any the majority, the major matches of any sport, and you can pick the line there, and then it brings you up all the available odds. So you don't have to go to each individual
line
book that you
shopping. Yeah.
have and line shop. It pulls it up all in one app, and it's for free. Pick it,
Well,
Pikkit. I mean,
let's say it how it is. You pay for everything with your privacy and your security, so you
yeah,
have to give them your info. You're logging into your betting accounts.
through them.
They're a regulated company, but I would just say if you're interested in that type of thing, it made my life a little less stressful these past couple weeks. So
I love that. I love it.
amen. Moving on to the next fight. Oh man, we got here. It's Clay the Carpenter Guida versus Joaquim Neto BJJ Silva. For a guy who's got BJJ in his name, quite peculiar how he has 0 submission wins in the UFC. But
Bagel.
what those BJJ guys love doing is throwing those hands and throwing heavy kicks, not afraid to get taken down and play off their backs. Joaquim Silva fits the prototype. This dude is coming out here swinging. Clay Guida, that dude has been putting his chin up on a platter for everyone to throw flying knees and combos, but he does that stupid ducking, dipping side to side, and it's not going to end well in this fight. I'm not playing the minus 325, but I can guarantee you I'll play Joaquim Silva inside the distance instead of knockout because there's a chance that either one happens here. I know he hasn't gotten a submission in the UFC.
You
Plus
have to play
400
submission.
ain't that bad, right?
I don't think he's knocking him out, bro. Like that's the
Right.
thing. Like he's got an
I don't know.
unbelievable.
Nah, okay. I think he
He's
can knock him out, though.
I don't think listen. When you say I think he can knock him out, like 4-ounce gloves, dude swings really hard. It's a fight. Of course, anybody can knock anybody out. I just think that Clay Guida has shown legitimate durability over his career. And I know it's kind of sketchy that the last person that knocked him out was Brian Ortega, but it's 20 seconds left in a fight that's so heavy with, crazy grappling. Yeah, I mean, I guess that would be the way to do it again, that you would get Silva in round 3 with a knockout. Like, I mean, I think you'd have to go deep again, like, because you're not getting it early. The problem with asking for Silva to do that deep is that he's not exactly a cardio machine, whereas Clay is. So I don't really give Joaquim Silva the cardio advantage here. Clay Guida, like I'm gonna let Mike talk about his ambient movement being useless, but Clay Guida is just one of the craziest, one of the best fighters in the UFC. Maybe one of my all-time favorites, like just completely in an underrated sense. Never gonna be a champion, but a Hall of Famer in his own right. And I'll put it this way: any fight that Clay Guida cannot get a takedown on, he's not winning. So if wrestling's not part of his game plan here, or he's not successful with getting a takedown, he will not win this fight. However, Joaquim Silva does not have good takedown defense, and he's a jiu-jitsu guy that's very comfortable playing on his back, not getting submissions. So unless you're knee barring, leg locking Clay Guida, I think it's a lot harder to submit him. So Clay could just lay on top of him for 10 minutes in a boring ass fight, and plus 260 could seem very, very juicy, while minus 325 on a guy that's 50-50 in the UFC anyway seems very crazy. So
I don't know. Laying sideways like a horse approach. I don't think that's going to win this fight.
Listen, if he doesn't get takedowns, if it stays on the feet, I don't love it. But I honestly think the fight goes the distance anyway. Like, Silva's not necessarily a finisher. You see in his career, he's either getting knocked out.
He's got 11 finishes and 3 decisions.
Bro, look at what he's doing in the UFC, bro. He's literally either getting a knockout or he's going to split decision. And I actually think this could be much more a split decision.
I'm shocked the breakdown has gone this far, and we haven't mentioned that Clay Guida is 41 years of age.
Because he doesn't age. He's 2,000 years old.
No, it's not that he doesn't age. It's that he's faced other old fighters.
32 and 23, 38 and 23 overall. I just need to chime in 2 things.
Sure.
First, if you want to understand the King of Purposeless movement quote and where that originated, watch the fight against Gray Maynard. And Dana White was infuriated after that matchup. He's just shaking his head, shaking his long hair out. Now he doesn't have that long hair. And that comes with aging, right? But also, he didn't want to engage. And that's one of Clay Guida's biggest problems at this stage in his career is he'll shoot for takedowns. And he did outstrike Michael Johnson, which, that's something to write home about. I did not expect that to happen. But we also have to realize that Guida is now 41 years of age, and he's taking on Joaquim Silva, who nothing to write home about. But he did push Tsarukyan in his last matchup. He does fight out of a solid camp now at ATT, right? And I go back to that Jared Gordon fight, and I played Jared Gordon heavily against Joaquim Silva.
I was shocked by that. I watched that fight for this camp. I was shocked by watching that fight, the way he melted Gordon, by the way.
Well, Gordon was having his way with Silva throughout the majority of the fight, and Silva just would not quit and ended up turning the tide. Silva was getting landed upon all over the place. Now, this is a completely different matchup. Clay Guida is going to try to take Silva down and grind him out. Do I think that's going to happen? Not necessarily. I lean towards the Silva side. I think that he does get this done inside the distance, but I also understand that Joaquim Silva has major warts in his game. He's been chin checked by lesser opponents than Clay Guida, and this is a volatile matchup. But look, we have a 41-year-old Clay Guida. I think there's about a 40%. 40 to 50% implied probability that Clay Guida leaves his gloves in the octagon. I'll say that.
In Austin, that's an interesting point. Finally in front of a live crowd. That's fair. To that point, I want to play fight goes the distance at plus 145, because if it's his last fight, you're not finishing him.
No, I just don't think you get it. The dude's 41 years old, and he's used to facing other really old fighters. Like Michael Johnson was old. Leo Santos was
chill.
Old.
He just let's just be honest for 1 second. He just fought Rafa Garcia.
He's not a finisher.
Well, can you calm down for a second before you bust a nut? Rafa Garcia is a crazy spam wrestler, dog, who kept it going. How do you line Rafa Garcia versus Joaquim Silva, Neto BJJ? I like
Well,
Rafa Garcia.
Well,
So
yeah,
like,
but that's a
oh,
different
what do you
matchup,
mean?
bro.
Of course, but it's still the point. It's how he's gonna be able to
He
survive.
lost the unanimous decision to a guy that doesn't finish people.
Right, because
You're tripping out.
the guy was a spam takedown artist. That's
Yeah, but
not what
Joaquin
Joaquim
Silva's
Silva
going to
can
be
do.
going to take off Clay Guida's head the whole
So
matchup. What are you
what?
talking about?
So he's gonna swing himself tired and
No,
get
no, no, no,
wrestled.
no. He's getting finished. I'll see you on the other side. We're moving on to the next fight. But before we do that, please, if you haven't already, like and subscribe to the channel. You'll get amazing discourse between me and the guru like this all the time. I'm being dismissive. I'm not taking that fight to go the distance. I don't like that take. Guru,
I'm
go ahead.
I'm gonna put a half unit on that.
Go ahead, just for the vibes. But if you're liking the vibes, go ahead, like and subscribe. Secret subscriber content if you want to donate to Grandma's Couch Cushions. Find out how you can subscribe to our channel. But it's not required. It's not required. It's just a joke. For us getting to 500, you can become a member, blah, blah, blah. But it's more just funny. Please just subscribe to the channel. It's a great time. We don't want to charge you anything, but if you want to support to the boys, you know what to do. Like there's super chats now, there's all that. But really, what we really come out here to do is break down these fights and have an amazing time. Bring on super smart people like Mike to make sure that me and Guru don't kill each other, and just have a fun time breaking down fights and picking our best bets, man. And talking about best bets, Puna,
which by the way,
Soriano.
that fight to go the distance is not one of my best
bets,
just to be clear.
Fair enough. It's just a half unit.
It's more of a Grandma's Couch Cushion.
Oh, you know what, Mike? Introduction. So Grandma's Couch Cushions are kind of some of those plays where you find a crazy odds, long shot prop that you want to play, and it's like, do you really want to dip into your actual bankroll? You know what I mean? And like, maybe if I just go into Grandma's Couch, I can find a couple spare coins and can throw that on it instead. So, like, if there's something we want to take a little
money that nobody's missing, that doesn't really count.
It's not how it really works, but just a fun joke, just so that you get the context. All right. Anyways, Puna Soriano, can you dig into Grandma's Couch and find the remnants of your career versus Dustin Stoltzfus? This guy, I didn't even bother to give him a TB nickname. I didn't think he was worthy. Puna Soriano, if you can't finish him early, he's going to have the better cardio because Dustin Stoltzfus, he just doesn't survive round 3 if he gets there. And if he does, it's because he's facing Kyle Dawkins. Inexcusable from Kyle Dawkins not to finish that man. The UFC did the right thing by getting him out of their rankings after failing to finish that fight. That's not really what got him cut, but yeah, it's just the principle. Puna minus 305. I expect you to find the finish. It's disgusting to think about laying the price, but I think I have like a solid finisher, like solid hands versus a guy that he doesn't belong in there on the feet. And Puna, he's not a great wrestler. He's not going to use his offensive wrestling, but he will use his hips to stuff takedowns and to get back to his feet over and over again if someone's implementing a takedown offense. I actually don't think Puna gets it done early. He might get wrestled and clinched for a little bit. Puna round 2, Puna round 3. Those prices are probably going to be jumping. Grandma's Couch is calling to me. Let's have a good time. I like that idea. Puna, Guru, what do you think about Puna? I just went to call you Puna. Is this also another TB kind of like
TV kind of
doppelganger?
Why do you think everybody looks like you?
Well, you said the Kelvin Gastelum, so that
you just curious. Like Kelvin Gastelum.
Anywho, I don't think this one, but what do you got in this one?
I definitely don't think you look like Punahele Soriano at all, but that's fine. But
it looks like Puna saw some things in that picture, like something's going on.
Jeez.
I'm not gonna go full Lou Betcha, but he saw some things.
I'm sure he did. He might have seen Lou Betcha, and that probably what scared him. Shout out Lou. I think this fight's really interesting for Puna here. He's taken basically a year off after getting knocked out round 2 by Roman Kopylov. Kopylov is a very, very good striker with really good takedown defense. Well, actually, I mean, decent takedown defense. But Puna is not really somebody that's going to get wrestling going per se, unfortunately. So I do think that he, as far as like safe chalk goes on this card, I actually think he is some of the safer chalk. I just don't really think that there's much coming back here in Dustin Stoltzfus. I mean, again, like you compare Dustin Stoltzfus to Roman Kopylov, it's totally different in terms of finishing potential on the feet or really on the ground. He did finish Dalcha Lugambula, which was a nice right hand finish from him. His rib is sticking out, finishing that first round. So finishes him good. The Nick Maximov fight, I know it's kind of crappy to have a split decision loss to Nick Maximov, but I mean, Maximov is just relentlessly humping him. I mean, relentless. Single leg after single leg after high level scramble after scramble after scramble after unbelievable. Holy crap! We got our first donation. Thank you so much, Daz. That's incredible. Wow. I
Wow.
don't even know what to say
I
about that.
honestly did not expect any of this, but we've been really
That's
trying to
unbelievable.
like
Wow.
build our channel for all these years and like doing it
That
for
really means a lot.
no money, no anything, and like really just out of the kindness of your heart to be one of the biggest supporters of the community and continue doing as such. He pops our cherry.
That
Appreciate
really
you.
means a lot. Wouldn't want it
And
from anybody else.
nah, honestly. But you guys are all the best. That's why we bring the best guests on and why we're gonna continue doing this stuff, like donations or not, subscriptions or not. Like it's all about just having fun breaking down this stuff. And we just love being a part of the community. What could be
Couldn't
better,
agree
right?
more. So
All right,
to
sorry, we
finish,
got taken off track. Go
all
ahead,
right.
Dariush.
So to finish that up, Dustin's not going to have the spam grappling of Nick Maximov. He's not going to have the finishing striking ability of Roman Kopylov. I think this is Puna's fight to lose, and I mean I think he's going to get it done. I know Mike doesn't like to parlay. I think you maybe parlay him a little bit, something small, something you have some other confidence with. We can talk about. I do kind of like playing him by maybe round 2 or round 3 finish, like maybe TB was talking about. I think he gets it done a little bit later. But yeah, I do like Puna here. I love his corner with Eric Nixick. He's somebody that's going to just keep getting better, only 31 years old. Mike, what do you think?
I think we were let down tremendously by Punahele Soriano last time out against Kopylov. I played Soriano fairly heavily in that matchup, and I was disappointed by his effort and by his preparation and by his execution and by his lack of willpower to stay in the fight, lack of gas tank. There were so many horrible signs in that fight that really left a horrible sour taste in my mouth. But then you look at the other side of the fight here, and Dustin Stoltzfus, I was at his last fight, I believe the fight that he won against Dwight Grant, I believe, went up a weight class, and Stoltzfus came out the other side victorious there. And now, Stoltzfus, he struggled with the likes of GM3. He struggled with some power punchers. And Punahele Soriano, yes, he has power. Yes, he fights out of a solid camp. But he seems like he may be the weak link in that camp, to be honest. I was at the Dalcha Lungiambula fight as well, and I remember being very impressed with his performance there. He was waiting for his moment, waiting to explode, and then he found it. And I do believe that that's going to happen here against Stoltzfus. I think that this is a get right spot for Soriano. After everything that I just said, I am going to pick Soriano here, and I think that the line, if you were able to get in on Soriano when he was at minus 250 or so, I think that's a much better spot than where it currently sits at over minus 300. But I will say this, that Soriano is somebody who I find difficult to trust, and he's against Maximov. He's let fights slip out of his grasp. The Brendan Allen fight, I know Brendan Allen has been the trajectory of his career has gone upward, but also Soriano, he did not look good in that fight. He throws heavy hands, and his striking defense isn't great. His gas tank isn't great, but does he have what it takes to take someone out the level of Stoltzfus? Yes. So I'm going to be picking Soriano here, and I think that the odds at minus 305 or higher are a little sus, as my sons say.
Yeah, I think they're sus, but again, I think fairly. I don't know. I think fairly justified. I just don't really see much of a finishing equity in Dustin Stoltzfus. So yeah, I think he was going to get it done round 2, round 3.
I like that. I don't think we have like a Abus level size and athlete, and maybe Puna's a little scared to let loose. Maybe Dustin wrestles. So I'm looking. Puna round 1 was plus 200. Maybe not enough for me to dabble, but the round 2 was plus 400. Round 3 plus 800.
Yeah. This
You'll
guy's
probably
been finished.
prices elsewhere.
Yeah, this guy's been finished in all of his fights in the UFC except for his debut versus Kyle Dawkins. And he gets lucky versus Joe Pyfer. His one win, his only claim to fame here in the UFC is a decision victory versus Dwight fucking Grant. Like, he doesn't belong here, man.
That's it. All right. Picking up the pace here. We got Miesha Cupcake Tate versus Julia the Raging Panda Avila. Mama Panda now coming off of ACL surgery, looking like she's coming off of being a Mama Panda versus Miesha Tate coming off of a 125 appearance. And yeah, I get there was a letdown in that Lauren Murphy performance, but what I did, what you continue to see from Miesha Tate is someone that's at least willing to be there and be a part of the fight and go the distance. Same thing against Ketlin Vieira, same thing against Raquel Pennington. Yeah, I get it. Amanda Nunes, things didn't go as well, but basically, I don't see Julia Avila anywhere near the level of fighter that generally gives Miesha Tate trouble, and not even near the level of fighter that Lauren Murphy is. I think Lauren Murphy comes in like, I get what she looks like up top, but she comes in like pretty solid shape for an unathletic, someone that took up jujitsu and stuff later in her life. You know what I mean? Like, for someone that used to be a drug addict. So Miesha Tate, I get it's tough dropping down to 125, dealing with those adjustments and trying to out hustle a fighter that is pretty solid at hustling for all of her shortcomings. Julia Avila, I don't know where her head's at this point. Someone that talked about retiring and just starting her family. And now after the ACL, then getting knocked up while recovering from the ACL, talking about settling down, starting new chapter. Now it's like, what are we doing here, Julia? You're not looking so good in the media photos. So what do you got, Guru?
Do you guys remember when, and this was like a while ago before she got pregnant and ACL surgery, like, do you remember she got like kicked out of her gym though too? It was like that whole big thing. Either of you guys remember that? So,
oh yeah.
You do?
Yeah, she got thrown out for like aggressively sparring or getting angry at someone that sparred aggressively. Like something happened.
Yeah, exactly. So just a bunch of drama behind that. I look back at Miesha's last couple fights here where she's been unsuccessful. Basically, what she wants to do to me is get her wrestling going. She's unsuccessful against Lauren Murphy. Lauren Murphy is an absolute bull. Maybe she doesn't have like the most like on like UFC stats.com, like maybe she doesn't have the best technical number for takedown defense at like 70%, but she's actually somebody, again, when you're physically strong and hitting with hard punches, it's going to be hard to take her down. And then you actually try to take down Ketlin Vieira, who had like a 90% takedown defense, somebody that's extremely difficult to take down. So in 2 fights, and that's a 5-round fight where Miesha wins at least 2, right? So you're curious, like, okay, how is her grappling going to look here against Julia Avila? And I think that if she gets her grappling going, she's going to have success, because I don't think Avila has great takedown defense. She's not going to, she's got decent striking, but it's nothing that Miesha Tate hasn't seen before. She's kind of really willing to get into a firefight. She's kind of wild. And I think Miesha Tate can take those opportunities and put them into takedowns. And if she does that, she's going to be on top and find herself winning. And I'll take an underdog shot. Again, I'll take a little doggy on what I think is otherwise a coin flip type fight. So I'd also love to see face-offs and weigh-ins. But Mike, what do you think?
I think this is a clear pass. From a multitude of perspectives, I think that money should be kept in the bankroll and not risked in this situation. And there's no shame in passing. You have Avila, who's coming off of pregnancy, injuries, and a lackluster career, to be honest. And she's taking on Miesha Cupcake Tate, who in my eyes is an overachiever. She's somebody who's reached higher than she ever should have been. I remember, and thank you for tweeting out earlier of the Lauren Murphy winning round 1 tweet. I was at that fight. What's cool is when you're at the fight, you're tweeting during the fight, and then it ends up on the broadcast. And that's what took place there. But I had Lauren Murphy winning that fight against Miesha Tate prior to the bout taking place. And I don't like Miesha Tate's striking. I know she went to the Yankee game after that matchup because the fight took place at USB Arena on Long Island, and she got busted up by Lauren Murphy. Lauren Murphy beat her up so bad. I don't trust Tate here. I got to be honest. I'm leaning towards the Avila side. She's younger, fresher, although granted, what we know, life has taken its course, nature's taken its course. But I think that the wrestling, yes, you're going to have somebody who's going to sell out trying to land takedowns for 3 rounds. Tate doesn't have the striking at this stage in her career to go 3 rounds hard. I'll be picking Avila. I think that you mentioned her striking is she's wild, etc. But I think that in this spot, I think that's going to help her out. To be honest, I think that being unpredictable is a plus when you're fighting somebody who is as predictable as Miesha Tate, and that's exactly what Miesha Tate is. Predictable. You know exactly what you're going to get. She's going to try to change levels, get this fight to the cage, take the fight to the mat, and similar to what she did against a fighter who she finished a couple of fights ago. But this is memory being jogged here, and Miesha Tate has not been active whatsoever. I remember Caitlin Vieira, I was coming home from Key West at an airport watching that fight, and I was like, wow, Tate doesn't have it anymore, especially against the younger folks. But this is a competitive matchup. That's why I say keep the chambers in your bankroll.
I like that. And, I might have to have a little degenerate action, sitting and watching the fights with Guru, but you're advocating for the smart thing to do, Mike. And I really appreciate you bringing that to the table.
Nothing wrong with passing on a women's MMA fight. With that being said, Avila was controlled against the cage by Julia Stoliarenko. So I think Miesha Tate could do it.
It would be gross. No matter how it happens, it's probably going to be disgusting and you're going to feel bad about it. Knowing the Guru the way I do. So
I love it. Sign me the fuck up. Give me overtime. Give me seconds. I'm in.
All right. There were 2 people on this card I didn't feel were deserving of the classic TB nicknames. We've made our way to the second one. We got Zach Savage Reese versus Cody Brundage. That's all we've got for you, my friend. Cody Brundage. Well, let's put it this way. I kind of figured Malkoon at minus blah, 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 whatever was really sketchy. But I did the classic, $20 Degen parlay. I did the classic Jacob Malkoon, like round 2 and round 3 props. Maybe $20 total all around.
He was going to win. He should have won. He was going to win.
Exactly. And I think the moral of the story is that Cody Brundage is just very easy to wrestle offensively, always. Cody Brundage is very easy to finish in general, always. The question here is just like, Zach Reese is someone that I decided to fade on Contender Series with someone from the Israeli regional scene against my better judgment. In this spot, Zach Reese is facing someone that everyone's got this, discontent and innate, feelings against, but Zach Reese really isn't that experienced. I mean, the dude's been out of the first round never in his professional career. Never. He's going to have a 4-inch height advantage, a 5-inch reach advantage, and he's probably live to finish this fight at any point. But if he doesn't do it in the first round, I'm scared, and I'm not laying minus 230 on Zach Reese. I'll take Zach Reese in under 1.5 if I had to do something on this fight. If that gets me to plus money, I'll put $5 to $10 on it, perhaps. Need a little something, but my God, this is a disgusting fight to consider playing. But damn it, we're going to. And the under 1.5 at minus 195 is probably some of the safest playable chalk you can get. This isn't Cedric Dumas coming off of a loss where he got finished after gassing out heavy against Josh Fremd and just deciding to sit in top control. Zach Reese's nickname tells you all you need to know about what's going to happen. He's either going to kill this guy or die trying. So give me Zach Reese, the Savage here. Guru, anything further or different to add to this fight?
One of the interesting things that I have cooking for myself personally, I just had a small, I have a unit on, I played Michael Morales 2 weeks ago, last week, whatever, last card, and I parlayed him with Zach Reese just for funsies. So I have that cooking in the oven.
2 sketchy legs. I appreciate it.
Yeah, exactly. 2 super. I mean, I actually felt much more confident about Michael Morales than I do about Zach Reese. Zach Reese doesn't necessarily deserve a minus 275 price tag. That being said, Cody Brundage, is is I don't know, is about as strong as a house of cards. You know what I mean? He's not very durable. Not impressed with anything that he's done there. Sure, go ahead, pull guard, do whatever you want to do, man. Pull a guillotine. You can get Zachary Reese and under 1.5 at plus 100 on Bet365. I'm going to be playing that. I think that's fair. If it gets any further than that, Cody Brundage has a damn good chance. So I think that Cody Brundage is a fair live betting opportunity, because if he somehow survives round 1, he's getting smashed. And then you're like, okay, well, maybe I could take a little grandma's couch cushion play on a plus 500, plus 600 Cody Brundage. That makes sense to me. But otherwise, like, nah, Zach Reese to me seems like the kind of guy that just maybe outperforms like his actual talent level. Like, some guys just show out under the bright lights, and some guys, like, are like beasts in the gyms but never can do it under the bright lights. Like, this to me seems like the guy that can do it in the bright lights. So I mean, they gave him the main event slot of Dana White Contender Series, so I think that there is something interesting here. So I'm taking Zach Reese, obviously, and that's where I'm at with it. What do you think, Mr. Mike?
I asked Twitter to sum up Cody Brundage's career in one word, and there were quite the answers. We saw quitter, a bunch of other profanities, etc. I'll omit those responses, but the key here is Brundage. If he wants the takedowns, if he wants to extend this fight, he has the ability to do so. But he's checked out, and he's found a way out of so many fights, and he has a lot of quit in him. We've seen it happen numerous times. He's almost he can't avoid the banana that's in the octagon, the banana peel. It's crazy, and he's talented. Brundage is talented, so it's sad. Would I be playing Zach Reese at over -200? No. I think that he is not as high caliber a fighter. You need to be confident enough in this specific spot, but I will say that Reese, you mentioned his nickname, Savage. It is true. He is going to bring the fight to Brundage, and he's going to pose numerous opportunities for Cody Brundage to seek a way out of this fight. And that's the key here. I think that Reese is going to show Brundage the door, and Brundage is going to get his walking papers, and that's going to be the last we see of Cody Brundage inside of the UFC.
Amen. No need to even add on. Beautiful way to break it down.
I just locked in that plus 100 off of that under 1.5. So
nice. Good job. We got Drakkar Cast Iron Close versus Joe All-In Selecki. Close coming in, 35 years old to Selecki's 30. Even height, even reach. Interesting matchup to me. This is another one of those ones where I've kind of vacillated. I could see it going both ways. There's a couple things that stand out to me. Here we go. Jared Gordon's performance against Joe Selecki kind of told me what I needed to. And if Drakkar Close can manage his gas tank, and if he's been working with the right gym, I feel good about his chances in this fight. He's the better striker, and he's got solid enough wrestling. It's just, then there's the concerns. Then there's him giving up back takes. There's him kind of getting into these lulls of activity, and, Drakkar Close just not being consistent. Now, what I really think that I'm interested in here is we've seen these guys with fast finishes in their last couple fights against, guys that got called up on the same week to make their appearance, their debut appearance in the UFC. I think that there could be a chance when I finally do get an over-under on this fight that they're overvaluing the finishing potential on both sides. I think Selecki has enough jiu-jitsu to try to survive here, and I think that Drakkar Close has enough submission defense to also survive if he's put in bad positions. Selecki, probably one of those guys where if he gets hurt, he's going to drop to his back, try to recover, pull guard, all that. And I don't think Close is the most prolific of finishers. In fact, in his UFC career, the only time he's gotten the finish is when he faces Brandon Jenkins on a day notice, and it takes until round 2. So I don't think he finishes Selecki, and I don't think Selecki necessarily finishes him. I know Beneil Dariush gets the back, but I think Beneil Dariush is a better wrestler, grappler, and fighter than Joe Solecki. I'm taking Drakkar Klose here. I couldn't come to the dog shot. I'm not sure if I'm going to actually bet it. I got to see their weigh-in and face-off because Drakkar Klose has been one of those guys that's kind of navigated around and been traveling to different camps. I don't love that. Also, I gave him Courtney Casey's nickname because he didn't have his own. So, Drakkar Klose, what are you doing here? What's going on? I need to see what's happening at weigh-ins before I can lay a bet on you. So, Guru, do you feel any different in this spot?
Well, personally, I really I didn't have exactly as tough a time vacillating on this fight. I'm on Drakkar Klose here. I think the level of competition is.
Would you say it was
high.
even close?
It wasn't. I'm sorry.
Would you say it was even close?
What do you mean?
Like getting to that decision? Was it even Drakkar Klose?
There's a pun there.
Oh God, I hate you.
Thank you, Mike.
So
Thank
much.
you for. He's just going.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate you clap. I'm trying to get cooking with my breakdown here, and you're you're actually you're asking a question. I think you're serious because why else would you interrupt somebody's breakdown? But it's a joke. All right, I got you.
It was a good one.
It was good. Yeah. I'm really close to coming over to your house and killing you, but whatever.
We can't promote violence on this channel.
No, but we can through fights. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, I know. I'm joking.
Oh God. Okay. Yeah, you're hysterical.
All right, so what do you got?
What do I have? Who's fighting again? I like the level of competition more for Drakkar Klose, even though obviously the Brandon Jenkins fight is not ideal. I think that I like the Rafa Garcia win, to be honest. The Beneil Dariush fight, like you bring up, Beneil's all over his back, right? Doesn't submit him. I think Beneil is a much better submission artist than Joe Solecki. Joe Solecki, you want to talk about taking time to finish? You want to say, oh, he takes till round 2 to finish Brandon Jenkins. By the way, he finishes him 33 seconds into round 2. You can't say that without talking about him taking all of round 2 to finish Carlos Deaton, which he has the body lock on his back, fishing for like whatever 9 minutes of this 10-minute fucking fight, and he finally gets it. Like, okay, dude, congratulations. And then you got to watch. I didn't even remember. I couldn't even remember this fight fucking happened. Alex De Silva. I'm like, who the fuck is that guy? I jogged my memory and clicked his Tapology, watched the fight. And I'm like, what the fuck card was this? Oh, the Rosenstrick Volkov card. Like, okay, the most fucking. I keep cursing. The most ghetto.
Chill.
Sorry,
like
the
most. You're going off the rails.
You're going off the rails. It's one of the most forgettable Apex cards ever. So, yeah, I just like a majority decision, terrible, a 10-8 or even a 10-7 on one judge's scorecard for round 2 for Alex De Silva. Just a terrible fight. He gets tired, man. I just don't see Joe Solecki getting the submission. I don't see Joe Solecki getting the submission finish. I don't see him being the better striker, and I don't see him having the better cardio. So give me Drakkar Klose here at nearly pick'em odds. What do you think of our breakdown, Mike, other than me rumbling, bumbling, and stumbling my way through it?
I'm just happy you're able to express yourself in these breakdowns. That's the key here, right or wrong. That's why we're here. So
I do my best.
The key here, there are a number of challenges that we need to really confront. And one is Joe Solecki's inability to absorb strikes. Jared Gordon and others have been able to cause Joe Solecki some serious problems. And man, even Deaton early on, he gave him a reality check, and Solecki, it seems like the lights turn on. Jim Miller also, he's able to get to the back, and then it'll be a stalemate for a few minutes. And you're right, he fishes for these submission attempts, and then when he actually goes for it, we saw against Hubbard, and I remember on the contender series too. I was very impressed with Solecki, but then you saw the cardio doesn't hold up, the striking output on the offensive side, volume. He gets very tired during his fights. And Drakkar Klose, I know he's 35 years of age, and he's also been, I don't want to say fraud check, because Klose has a lot of fights in the UFC and also has put some stiff competition on the ropes, as in Benny Dariush and others. The Tamor fight was something that really stuck out to me. I remember, I think I was on Drakkar Klose against Tamor, and Drakkar Klose had a lot of trouble closing distance in that matchup. And his footwork was not there. He did not have the footwork to be able to compete. Is that relevant in this fight against Joe Solecki? No. What I'm trying to say is neither of these fighters are complete fighters, and both of them there's a clear path to them losing this fight. And that's why I'm staying away from this matchup. Initially, I thought Solecki might be the side, and seeing his odds from a dog situation get blown out a little bit. I think people are seeing what I'm seeing, that the striking defense is a real challenge for him. Also managing his gas tank. He has to manage his gas tank if he's going to go 3 rounds. If he goes balls to the wall for the first round, he's not going to have anything left. And then Klose is going to piece him up in the second and third round. So I think that Klose is live for a TKO finish late. I really think that's a possibility. But then I know Drakkar Klose has never been submitted in his mixed martial arts career, his professional career. But I think that Solecki does have what it takes to submit a lot of folks at this weight class. And it takes one mistake, and he's ready to capitalize on it. So I think that Solecki is live here. I lean at this stage in the week. I lean Drakkar Klose just because he's the more durable fighter. He's shown some grit, and he can keep going. Whereas Solecki, it's almost like he's trying not to fall off a cliff. So I'm leaning Drakkar Klose, but no play yet. I also want to see folks on weigh-ins here. I think that this is one of the fights that has the potential for somebody missing weight.
What do you think about the option? And I don't know the line or even if there's one available, but what do you think about the option of a Drakkar Klose decision only? So, I mean, not that either, because I think Drakkar could get the finish, and maybe Joe could as well, obviously, certainly with a submission, but I don't see Joe necessarily winning a decision because, I mean, you watch the Jared Gordon fight, and that 6.5, that 7-minute mark right there, right? You could time it, he falls off a cliff right then and there. And I just don't see him winning a decision. So what do you think?
I remember, I believe my wife and kids and I were at Aquatopia at Camelback Mountain for that bout between Jared Gordon and Joe Solecki. Fun times. But I was on the Solecki side. I remember watching it. I was like, oh, no. You could see Solecki hitting a wall there, and he started to crumble down the stretch. And granted, he could have won that fight, and I believe it was a split decision. And the control time in that first round, it was almost like a 10-8 round. He came pretty darn close to submitting Gordon in that spot. But man, there are a few hurdles that would have to get made prior to hitting a decision only on Klose, to be honest. So I would be not my cup of tea. I'll say that. But I get where your head's at.
Fair, I appreciate it.
All right. Let's we got the Mean Machine versus Milk Coffee. Oh man, Steve Garcia coming in, featherweight matchup versus Melchizio Costa. Plus 205 for the Mean Machine, minus 250 for the Milkman. Going to be 5 years older. Steve Garcia has a decent bit more UFC experience. And Steve Garcia kind of reminds me, like, from kind of how I mentioned before about Zach Reese, like Steve Garcia is going to bring the fight one way or the other, by hell or by high water. Steve Garcia,
he's going to bring the funk.
Yeah,
he's going to bring the funk. He's the Mean Machine.
He's getting into some fisticuffs. Seriously. No, I mean, he's all action, dude. And I think Costa here, the reason I can't play this guy or trust him at minus 250 is just there's going to be chaos in the octagon, and he's going to be the smaller guy. I trust him if he gets the top control positions. Steve Garcia has been controlled for center periods before. It's just Luis Pena was a very large, gigantic man in comparison to Steve Garcia. And, Garcia wore him like a backpack for 14 minutes of that fight. Mel Costa, I don't envision him staying entirely safe for that entire time. And I've seen Costa finish way too much for my liking. I can't quite get to the Garcia bet at this point. But I just might. I really don't have a confident pick either side here. I lean towards the favorite because that's what Vegas is telling me to do. But Sometimes you gotta just look at Steve, you know. I mean, look at that. Look at that guy's got some angst in his face. I gotta go for Mr.
Jesus.
Fisticuffs.
What the hell? No, I don't know. Yeah, this is a fight that I don't really want any exposure on, if I'm being completely honest. Um, I lean to the favorite, like you said, TB, because Vegas tells me to. Steve Garcia's overall cardio, and especially when facing a grappler, like you saw versus Luis Pena, um, is not very good. And his striking defense is suspect, and his chin is even more suspect. Look at the Mahashate fight. So that's unfortunate, but he's got absolute fucking bricks for hands. So look at the Chase Hooper fight, look at the Nerdenbeck fight, hell, the Ontiveros fight. He even beat Chepe on the regional scene, LFA. So the dude can crack. Like he's fairly well rounded, and he can crack. Problem is he doesn't have great takedown defense. So Melky can probably wear on him and just win some boring decision. But I don't want to play him at minus 250. So maybe it's like dart throws on specific hedges, like Garcia round 1 KO and Melky round 3 sub type of things, but nothing I'm really interested in getting involved at this point. Unless Mike can sell me on something. So Mike, what do you like?
Well, Steve Garcia is expecting a large contingency of fans in Austin coming out for him. And I know he's very aggressive out of the gate. Ontiveros was able to have some success against Garcia. There have been many fighters who've put Steve Garcia on Queer Street, and that is a cause for concern. He's very, very aggressive. I know he annihilated Chase Hooper, but he's got to come out hot out of the gates and believe in himself. If he, and we saw even in his last fight, he was almost finished. I don't trust Garcia. I think that Costa is the real deal. I watched him fight against Thiago Moises, and then also the fight against Austin Lingo. You saw a much more measured approach. This kid's only 27 or so years of age, fighting out of Shoote box, tough as nails, does have some semblance of a bottom game as well if the fight gets there, has a solid gas tank. He can go deep into fights, and he's a very intelligent fighter. I know what you may have seen on the regional scene suggests otherwise, but I like what I see in Costa here. I think that Garcia makes catastrophic bonehead errors trying to close distance and land the most powerful shots he can possibly land. And he sells out for them. But when he does that, he's asking to be countered, and Costa can counter strike. And he just fought Lingo, both of these fighters, Lingo and Garcia, that would be a good fight, because I think Garcia is on his way out. I know he has a few wins in the UFC, but I'm not sold whatsoever on Garcia. If he does win this, it's likely by knockout. And Luis Pena, what is he up to these days? Bob Ross, right? What happened in that fight? And that was, I'm not impressed with Steve Garcia. He does throw for power. Other than that, not much to write home about. I think Costa has a much, much higher ceiling here. And I think that somebody's getting finished.
I love it. And that under 1.5, is that really plus money? Like, I know I just did these lines right before we started. So, shout outs to TB for always finding one thing to mess up, but I'm pretty sure that's actually, under 1.5 is the plus money spot here. So that's screaming to me. Like, I really don't understand how this one, like Zach Reese and Cody Brundage, should be the exact same price as this fight's under.
I don't agree with that.
I see the under 1.5 at minus 250. I see fight doesn't go the distance at minus 250 right now.
Right. Okay. Yeah, and I got DraftKings open here, and they don't have lines on a few, but I got an under 1.5 plus 105 on DraftKings.
Take it if you like it, man.
I just might that instead of Assad here because the milkman might just deliver, and I don't want to be on the wrong end of picking another dumbass underdog when they're clearly
Yeah, I
setting
don't
up a
know. I think
Brazilian in Texas.
7 minutes in the bigger octagon. I'm not sure, but hey, I don't think Garcia's got a great chin, so
He certainly doesn't know how to keep it safe. So,
very aggressive.
yeah, love it. That was also interesting tidbit about the contingent of fans. Appreciate that, Mike. We've got Rodolfo Trator Bellato versus Ihor Duelist Poteria. Shall we have a duel of swords on the feet, gentlemen, or is Bellato going to get that wrestling going at minus 410? Yes, gingerly touch our tips. That's great. But Bellato, you trusted him at minus 410 because I'm certainly not at this price. But then you look at the fraudulent record on the regional scene. The fraudulent will to be in the octagon once things don't go in his way of Ihor Poteria. He's got 3 knockout losses, not just the one, in the UFC to Mr. Oldberg or Negu Mariano. He had another one before he got here. So, and I think that they tried matching him up against people that like were legitimately throwing fights. Like there was sketchy stuff about his record coming in. On the other end, Contender Series minus 410. Didn't fight too long ago. Has been knocked out by Vitor Petrino. Like, is there a chance that the duelist? Yeah, twice. Thank you. Is there a chance that the duelist gets those hands? No, right? Okay, so you pick Bellato, and you just kind of
he's got to listen. Poteria has a puncher's chance. Obviously, I mean he swings crazy. His offense isn't his problem. I mean, although sometimes he can be kind of low volume. He has 5 minutes of cardio. That's it. And like you said, he's a quitter. So Bellato, finished twice by Vitor Petrino. Okay, well, Vitor Petrino is the real fucking deal. You've watched him decisionate people. You've watched him knock out people. You've watched him submit people. He's the real deal. So you give him credit for that. Loses twice to him. Loses his Dana White Contender Series shot. Wins 2 fights on the regional scene, and then comes back, wins another Contender Series fight. Here he is. Gets honestly a fairly easy matchup here in Ihor Poteria. Rodolfo, somebody that you'd have to watch the regional scene to see him do it, but he's actually willing to mix in the takedowns. So if he can mix in the takedowns even too, take the path of least resistance, Ihor can't get up off his back. So, I mean, he's got 4 submissions on his record. So why not get a sub? Why not get a knockout? I mean, go for it. Whatever. Either way, Bellato by finish. Sounds good to me.
Bellato and under 1.5 is probably
I like it. Money. No, because Poteria is still live round 1. You need him to die. You need him to be tired. So round 2. Okay. I really like round 2.
Okay. All right. Mike, what are you thinking?
We have a number of fighters here on this card. I counted at least 5 who have, when they face adversity or they have punches being slinged at them, they do not react well. Negu Mariano was having success against Poteria. And when that's happening on the feet, you've got issues. It's amazing how Poteria got to 20-4 overall record in mixed martial arts. And Bellato, he's just a victim of circumstance as far as I'm concerned. You look at fighters who are in the division where there's a great up-and-comer, and what are the chances? Petrino, he's the real deal. I echo the sentiment there. Vitor Petrino is the real deal. I invested, I believe he was the largest play of the year for me. I risked 3.5 units on Vitor Petrino in his last matchup. And I'm someone who, you look up and down the leaderboard at betmma.tips. I risk under 7 units per event. It's been that way since 2016. Total risk units under 7. So I believe in a measured approach every time out, not slinging units around like water. There are no 7, 8, 9 unit plays, no 10, 11, 12 unit plays. You'll notice that does happen on the betmma.tips landscape, and just not my style. Never been like that. Never will be like that. And here, Bellato is going to be the pick. Do I have the cojones to play him at this money line? No. I believe he does get a finish here, and it might be brutal. I think that this is the one that's going to draw first blood on the octagon floor. And I think that Poteria does he does believe in himself, and he's dangerous early. So if he's going to get it done, it's probably in the first round, Poteria. But I think that Bellato's going to come in here and smash him, to be honest. So the pick's going to be Bellato.
Nice. Love it. Great breakdown. Really, really to the point. And this is why we bring on pros like Mike. This is absolutely awesome. So we're getting there, man. We got a couple fights to go. Yes, Camber, I completely agree. Absolutely agree on the styles of betting. And that's something that I've been trying to practice more myself. You know, it's difficult having fun doing certain things, but at the end of the day, is it an investment opportunity or are you trying to have fun? So, stay tuned. You know, you gotta look at things a certain way to have a certain level of success. And that's why
that's actually a good point. I like to walk that tightrope fairly tight.
Yeah, because we all like to have fun, but at the end of the day, what's the most fun?
Winning
Cashing
money.
out, watching your favorite sport, cashing out. Like you add those two together. Does it get any better than that? So, does it get any better than Wellington, the prodigy Turman, the prodigal son of Glover Teixeira at this point, versus Jared the Night Train Gooden? Electric nickname for whatever reason. It stands out to me. Yeah, Ghost, as Mike likes to say, take what's yours. I agree, Mike. That's a great mantra. So Wellington Turman minus 198. Is he going to take what's his in this matchup? I personally think I'm going to have to shout out Lou Betcha. I think minus 198 on Wellington Turman against anybody in this economy is just asking for trouble. It's just not something you really want to do with your money. I get it. He should have been making improvements. He's probably got better stand-up now that he's been training with a guy the caliber of Alex Pereira, cutting down to welterweight now, probably the smarter move for his career. It's just Jared Gooden hits really hard, and I've seen Wellington Turman just absolutely put to sleep before. And I know Gooden has a lot of holes in his own right. And I'm kind of, shall I say, vacillating on this one. So no official definitive pick from me here, but I lean towards the idea of Gooden, but it seems too Gooden to be true. So I feel like I'm going to end up picking Turman. So what do you got, Gooden?
I don't like this fight either. There was another fight on the card I passed. This is basically another fight I passed. Jared Gooden is one of my, if you are a follower of the show, he's like one of my Danny Hot Chocolate Roberts type fighters. Like I just don't like what he's got going on at all. An unimpressive fighter. I mean, wins 2 fights.
You don't like the word fear tattooed above his left boobie?
No,
you don't like
it doesn't work for me. Doesn't work for me. I mean, knocked out by Impa Kasanganay. His wins on the regional scene. Again, he got knocked out by Impa Kasanganay in the regional scene since being back in the UFC. He missed weight versus Carlston Harris, but that was on short notice. I mean, he wins by a stomp in round 2 versus a 13-6 guy. I mean, you can't stomp in the UFC, so not helpful now. And wins by injury. I just nothing impressive, man. I'm not missed weight literally his last 2 UFC fights. So what are the chances he makes weight here? I would say fairly slim. He's got a 68% takedown defense as well, for whatever it's worth. Turman needs to get his wrestling going. Don't like him standing on the feet trying to strike with Gooden. Gooden's always been low volume. Anyway, though, just a boring decisionator. Couldn't possibly love to play Turman at minus 200, especially in this economy. So full pass on a low level fight. But I mean, do I hate anybody taking a dog shot? No, I love dog shots, but I don't think I can get there personally. So what do you think, Mike?
I think Turman has skills. I'll say that. I think he's much more highly skilled than Jared Gooden is. Jared Gooden, it's almost as if the first few minutes of the fight, he comes out hot, and then it doesn't look like he's gassed, but he fights on autopilot. You'll notice that throughout the Randy Brown fight and others. Gooden, he will not move his head off the center line. Watch after the first few minutes of the fight. Now, is Wellington Turman necessarily a striker? No, that's the issue here, that Turman's going to come in and look to grapple heavily. That's what I'm led to believe. But also, I believe that Turman has been putting a lot of time in with Alex Pereira and with Glover, and he's trying to become a more well-rounded fighter. He's taken a lot of damage, though. I remember being on Wellington tournament against Andrew Sanchez, of all people, who's no longer with the promotion. And Sanchez put Turman out. Brutal knockout. We saw Bruno Silva put Turman out. One knockout, though, I have to mention. If you search on Twitter, you'll see it. Bruno Oliveira knocking out Jared Gooden. That was a brutal knockout. If you ever watched that fight, I know the Impa Kasanganay fight was pretty tough to watch too. But in this spot, I don't trust Gooden's gas tank. I think that Turman's going to come out here, try to fight smart. He may get sucked into a brawl. You don't want that to happen against Jared Gooden because he can crack. Heavy puncher. I'm going to be picking Turman to win. I think this is an ugly, high volatility matchup, and my bankroll will be better spent elsewhere.
I like it. I like it a lot. And yeah, if we all agree to stay away on a fight, that's got to tell you something. So hope you're listening to the show and doing the right thing and practicing some proper bankroll management. All right, here we go. Talk about places to practice, whatever or not. Veronica Macedo Hardy, she's still Veronica Macedo MMA on Instagram, so that's her nickname for me.
I like that. See, that's something I would do because that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, did you notice a few of the other nicknames sprinkled in tonight, Guru?
Yeah, I did. A couple.
I don't know. I feel like you
I
might have missed a few.
I generally pay attention to like other more important things. Like, which one do you think you snuck past me?
So I thought maybe Benny the Bull. Thought that was one.
Yeah, I didn't like that. I told you I didn't like it.
Okay.
It's Squamish. That's not her nickname.
Yeah, but she's out of that region. She doesn't have a nickname.
Yeah. Right. So I don't like that.
Nickname,
So I don't like that you called her Squamish. That's weird.
She trains out of that region.
I understand.
Yeah, I guess there were a couple other options. All right. Well, anyways, we made it here.
Congratulations.
Veronica Macedo. What she had in the last matchup, she had a big experience advantage against someone that literally had like 3 or 4 other MMA fights up to that point. And like looking at the archetype, like the body shape, no body judgment, no shaming or whatever. But like Juliana Miller is definitely like a thinner frame than someone like Jamie Lynn Horth. I feel like Horth is kind of one of those more filled out 125ers, even in her debut, stepping up on short notice to fight a 135 against someone that was scheduled to fight a few times. Jamie Lynn Horth was, like on the UFC radar, but no one really wanted to fight her. And she gets her opportunity to get into the UFC by taking that short notice matchup up a weight class and actually winning the fight, and we, she doesn't look like per se the best, but under the circumstances for her to even get the win and on that debut, short notice, Haley Cowan is tough. She's physical. She's a big opponent that could match the size and physicality of Jamie Lynn Horth. Veronica Hardy does not match those same like check boxes for me. She might be the cleaner striker from distance, and that's where the story ends. I think Horth might even be the better striker at the end of the day, but she should be able to use her physicality, clinch control, wrestling if she needs to, cardio. She's got that in spades, multiple round 3 finishes in her career, and finishing ability against someone in Hardy that, I thought Juliana Miller was going to take to that place. But did I place a bet on Miller, like her money line? No, I took a shot on like a finish prop. So did I end up losing as much as I thought? No, but I'm not going to adjust the steering wheel the other way and take Veronica Hardy against a clearly better opponent here. So Jamie Lynn Horth, me and Guru were scouting this out all week long. The second the line hit -110, and I saw that Bet Online move to -120, we jumped in, got some money down, and we're sitting at -185 now. The question is, does it play like some of these other matchups where we beat early line movement, we have the right read, it goes well, or is it ST Dumas versus Josh Fremd? That remains to be seen. But what we did do was we did our job, and we beat
did
some
our
line
job.
movement.
I really do like Jamie Lynn Horth here. I think she's arguably the better striker. And on the ground, like, you're not submitting her. This girl's undefeated. She's got really good jiu-jitsu. I think what Synchro Wing is asking is the whole X factor to this fight, to be quite honest. Do you guys think that Veronica Hardy has a huge advantage because Dan Hardy's in her corner and game planning? Honestly, yeah, I do. I think working with Dan is helpful. I think Dan's a smart guy. That being said, I think your skills are only so limited, and Dan is, only as good as he really is too, while being, a high level scientific mind of the game. You can't put lipstick on a pig in terms of you look good against Juliana Miller, who is really bottom of the barrel. So beat Jamie Lynn Horth undefeated here. Show me something as an underdog. Okay, now 27 years old, you're really looking like a prospect, and I'll reconsider. But until that time, I'm on Jamie Lynn Horth, and I'm very happy at my pick-em odds. We did a wonderful job reading the tea leaves there. So, Mike, what do you think? For the last time,
you're
tonight,
at the mercy of the in-fight decision making of the two combatants who are locked inside of the 8-sided octagon. That is an important take-home point. And Veronica Hardy Macedo, watch the Bea Malecki fight. That was a disturbing sequence of events against a much larger opponent. And Hardy Macedo is fighting Jamie Lynn Horth, who's much larger than her and a very physical fighter here. I realize that Hardy is going to be pulling the strings, but there's only so much you can do. You can't get in there and fight for your significant other unless you want to hop into the octagon, like what happened with McGregor and Khabib Nurmagomedov, but I don't recommend that. Here, I'll be picking Jamie Lynn Horth, but this is a clear pass from my perspective. Congrats on locking in a solid number. You guys did your job, so to speak. But I'll also say sometimes you get closing line value, and it's like, whoa, what the hell was that all about? Like, that wasn't value if you think it's closing line value. So I understand. I've been burned. I take pride in trying to beat the line movement early and often, but man, this is a sketch matchup, as my sons would say. I'm going to be picking Horth, but what can you say? This is a sloppy, low-level women's mixed martial arts bout. That's really what it is. And both of these ladies are really fighting for their careers. They're fighting for, even though Horth is undefeated, right? And she has LFA experience, right? She brings with her a legitimate skill set, but at this level, I think there are 10, 15 fighters I could just rattle off who could beat both of these fighters on any given night in the same weight class.
Nice. Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. And that's the ultimate point, is that we're playing a lower level WMMA fight. I'm relying on the physical edge rather than, the cleaner this or that. So I get it. It is sketchy, and closing line value could all be a mirage. But at the end of the day, what we thought was a beautiful lake of water to drink from could just be Veronica Hardy Macedo stuffing our heads into the sand. So
you could hedge, though. You could ARB, and
you could
have a profit right now if you'd like.
That is fair. There is opportunities to be had, as you might say.
That excites me. I like opportunities.
Listen, really appreciate all you guys that have stopped in. The algo is going to be, chat was popping. Algo is going to be crazy coming off of an off week. So appreciate anyone that stopped by to join us tonight. Really had an amazing time. Feel like I really learned a lot from Mike, as we do all the time. We always bring on people that are going to teach us something about the meta analysis of this game, and Mike's really level-headed approach, mature analysis, and willing to take things slow and make it more of an investment rather than a roller coaster ride. So I just want to say shout out to our awesome guest. If you're not already following him on YouTube, on Twitter, on Bet MMA Tips, you're probably not making money if that's the case. So make sure you go ahead and do that. I'll try to get that link in the bio by the end of the night for Mike. And then just want to say from the bottom of my heart, really appreciate all you guys, like I do every week. Wouldn't be the same without you. Extremely busy guy, Guru can attest. And, to make this happen is because it's one of the shining points of my week. So
Absolutely.
Can't wait to get back to, we'll have our Saturday fights. Missed them last week. Had our Wednesday show. Awesome stuff. Mike, once again, you're the man. Guru, you're the dog. Mike, Any last words on your end before we pass this off to my
Yeah.
dude?
Well, we're closing in on 2 hours here. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, supporting the show. And, it is what it is. Measured approach, dollar cost average. Go get what's yours, one fight at a time. That's it. This is a marathon, not a sprint. And if anybody who says otherwise, not the truth. So just do your thing, enjoy the fights, go get what's yours. Thanks, guys, for having me on. I appreciate both of you. This has been a great time, and it's nice gelling with everybody. So everybody in this community.
Mike, seriously, we really, really appreciated your time. We appreciated your insight. We loved having you on, and as long as you had a good time, I'm sure we would love to have you on in 2024 at some point, when the schedules all work out and stuff like that, because we got 43 events next year to choose from. So that's going to be super exciting. Mike, again, seriously, thanks again. Everybody in the chat, thanks for running it up. Share it throughout the week. Subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure you're following my unbelievable co-host, TB Scouting MMA, on Twitter, Verdict, Instagram, Tapology, and hey, pick it if you want as well. You can follow me, Guru Scouting MMA, Twitter, Verdict, Instagram, and Tapology. We got only, guys, listen, after this, 2 more cards. That's it. Back-to-back weeks, and then we're done for a month. See you next year. So next week, we've got what's supposed to be UFC in China. We've got UFC Vegas 83, the forgotten card. You've got Song Yadong taking on Chris Gutierrez. Got a guest booked already. Very, very exciting. And then we finish that up with UFC 296. Everybody take care. Let's win some money. Thanks again.